The Egyptian Sphinx is famous, but do you know much about it? Actually, who knows much about it? Surprisingly, there's more known about the Sphinx than you'd think. You might not even realize how little you knew until you watch this video. Let's start with the theory that many proposed but no one proved. The idea of a secret passageway or tunnel under the Sphinx leading to underground rooms, as believed by historian Matt Simpson, who's convinced that there's a tunnel below the Sphinx that connects to the Giza pyramids. Simpson's convinced that a secret passageway was discovered during the 1837 excavations and that Egyptologist Colonel Howard Weiss witnessed it, but somehow he and his team had to keep it quiet. Simpson's theory seemed crazy until in 2019 hidden tunnels were discovered beneath the Giza plateau. If there are tunnels there, they've to lead somewhere. Assuming the Sphinx's inner chambers had some purpose, a connection between the pyramids and the nearby sculpture makes sense. Why archaeologists and the Colonel were told to keep the discovery secret, though, remains a mystery. Less controversial statement about the Sphinx. It was carved out of a solid rock. Seems unbelievable considering its size, but that's the case. The monument was carved from a single limestone slab, probably worked on by hundreds of workers until the Sphinx reached its present size. It's 73 meters long and 20 meters high, but that's not quite true. The Sphinx we see now has been repaired using limestone blocks, so its original form was different. Designing or building such a huge project would be a massive challenge for any modern company. It's staggering to think that ancient Egyptians built it using only common hand tools. We don't even know the name of the architect who managed this process, unlike many other large Egyptian sculptures and structures. There's no inscription on the Sphinx to say who made it. No wonder some people think it was built by aliens. Next statement's a bit controversial. The statue was maybe really thought of as a representation of Anubis, the dog-headed god. According to popular belief, the original face of the Sphinx was meant to be Pharaoh Khafra, but plenty of people disagree. No special status for cats in ancient Egypt, but dogs, thanks to Anubis, did. Take another look at the Sphinx's shape. Notice its flat back and leg position. Doesn't it remind you of a dog? Another thing to note, Anubis was known as the keeper of the necropolis. If, like some think, the Giza plateau was or is a necropolis, then an Anubis statue looking at it would make sense. We've mentioned that there are no inscriptions, so it's worth asking, who built it? If you dismiss the Anubis theory and consider it an image of Pharaoh Khafra, then the Sphinx should have been created between 2558 and 2532 BC. But there's no solid proof nor consensus on who built it, why it was built and its real purpose. The lack of information on one of the world's largest and oldest known sculptures. This monument in Egypt is concerning. We don't even know its original name, as it isn't mentioned in ancient Egyptian literature. We know it was called the Temple of Harmakhet during the New Kingdom, but that probably wasn't its first name. The sculpture was first called Sphinx about 2,000 years ago. The lack of construction and naming records from an otherwise meticulous civilization raises questions. Were these documents destroyed? And if so, why? The question on everyone's mind: what happened to the Sphinx's nose? One popular story says Napoleon Bonaparte's forces broke it during a battle near Giza in 1798. This version of events is even in some history textbooks, but there's no direct proof, eyewitnesses, or high chances of it being true. Actually, everything points in a different direction. According to Arab historian al-Makrizi, the Sphinx's nose has been missing since the 15th century, possibly even longer. Al-Makrizi claims it was destroyed by a Fatimid sheikh, Muhammad Saim al-Dar, but there's no proof of that either. Uncontroversial theory suggests Europeans intentionally broke the nose to hide its African features, proving ancient Egyptians were black. Let's continue on this subject. There's another idea that the Sphinx's nose was eroded. But there's a problem. Studying the Sphinx's watermarks, there's growing evidence suggesting it's older than we thought. Could only appear after thousands of years of regular rains in this part of Egypt. It hasn't been more than 7 years, according to Shok's estimate of erosion damage around 12,000 years. If they could prove it, it would be unthinkable and overturn our ideas about Egypt's history. To be fair, many of Shok's colleagues strongly disagree with him and think his theory is not serious. Nevertheless, the fact that Sphinx has water damage at all makes us think about some inconvenient questions mainstream versions can't answer. Here's a surprising fact. In the 17th century, it wasn't visible to the naked eye. This proves the theory Napoleon broke its nose can't be true. Until 1798, it was buried under Egyptian sand. Only when its top appeared, people found out it existed. In the 1920s, French engineer Émile Barre began excavations. It took him 10 years, and in 1936, modern people saw the Sphinx for the first time. 150 years earlier, Italian explorer Giovanni Caviglia and French archaeologist Auguste Mariette tried to dig it but gave up due to the task's scale. It can't be that the Sphinx was buried so deep by chance. It's like assuming one day sand will swallow the Egyptian pyramids. The monument was buried intentionally, but we still don't know who or why. We mentioned this earlier. Does the Sphinx actually lack part of its head? Meaning, did it once have a full forehead profile? And the top of the skull? Some think it once had a beard on the chin. The Sphinx's nose is damaged, but let's be honest, the rest isn't in great condition either. After at least 4,500 years in the desert, you can expect some destruction, but not all of it is natural. Someone either disfigured or remodeled the face, possibly more than once. It might seem obvious, but the head is too small for the body. Egyptians were never careless about statue proportions. Either the head is fake, which brings us back to the Anubis theory, or it was so carved and destroyed that there's almost nothing left of the original. A 2022 pic shows a statue with closed eyes. Obviously, it's impossible. The Sphinx's eyes have always been open since its excavation in the 1930s. Still, on social media, many pics spread showing it seems like the statue sleeps with closed eyes. Some even called it a sign of the apocalypse, but most likely, there are two simple explanations. First, the photos were taken at a unique angle, creating an optical illusion. Option 2. Someone photoshopped the original image. Since there are photos from different angles, the Photoshop theory seems more plausible. We assure you, after this, thousands have seen and photographed the Sphinx. Its eyes are still open. We mentioned before. The Sphinx might have had a beard. Let's admit, it's not so much a guess, but a real fact. A piece of the beard is in the British Museum's collection. One of many ancient Egyptian artifacts in the British Museum that, frankly, shouldn't be there. Officially, the beard fragments were found between the Sphinx's paws in the 19th century, but we know it's not true since the paws were buried in sand until the 1930s. It's heartbreaking and surprising that the recent and ancient history of this statue is full of holes. Nevertheless, the Sphinx's beard exists. In Egypt, there's a push to gather all the statue's pieces and reattach her. So what's the main takeaway? What's the most important thing we didn't know about the Sphinx before but we do now? Maybe understanding we have no more chances to know the Sphinx's real age. Only that it's definitely older than the pyramids it watches. It's likely the age difference is several thousand years. Possibly the monument was built before Pharaoh Khafra, around 2600 BC, or was already there at his birth. Limestone erosion is suspicious, but talking about an age over 9,000 years rules out it was built by ancient Egyptians, in our current understanding at least. This doesn't claim aliens influenced its erection as some theorists love to discuss, but makes us wonder who lived on this earth before them. Perhaps a bigger mystery is what this Sphinx was carved for, and what its purpose was. We've all seen pictures of this world-famous landmark, but how many of us have thought about why we need it? If it's really a portrayal of Khafra, it seems a bit weird, even for Egyptian pharaoh standards. Making something like that would set a serious precedent. Also, why didn't any of Khafra's successors build their own Sphinx? On the other hand, if it was meant to be a huge Anubis statue, why was it remodeled? Why is the head much smaller than the rest, and what happened to the original head? Why isn't there any written proof about its creation? What was its original name? Did it have a high purpose, or is it just a huge impressive monument, a symbol of power? Influences of a specific pharaoh at a specific time. It's something we don't have answers to. Hopefully you're now thinking of these questions too. Hope you enjoyed this look at Egypt's most mysterious monument. That's all from me. If you liked this video, don't forget to rate it. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. Your engagement is the best reward. Thank you. Thanks. See you soon. Bye.